Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing Drishyam 2, which stars Mohanlal in the lead and is directed by Jeetu Joseph. So Drishyam 2 is the sequel to Drishyam, which originally released in Malayalam, and I'm sure most of the people who watched the movie can kind of agree that it has lived up to the expectations of a Drishyam sequel, because a lot of times when sequels are released, they aren't that great. But this one was a pleasant surprise because I think they were able to put a lot of those elements that were surprising and exciting and thrilling. So let's start from the beginning, right? And the opening sequence, there is this guy who's running away from somebody or some people, and in the process, he sees George Clooney's character coming out of the police station with the shovel. And right there, the movie is already establishing a very crucial part of the sequel, of this story that takes place in this movie, because that is what actually changes a lot of things in the movie, because there is a witness to what happened that night. So the movie already establishes it to us right then, and it already starts with a bang because he's running, there's a lot of action. So right off the bat, they're starting with something exciting. After that, for at least I think I'd say half an hour, 1 hour, we get a look into the life after this major event that takes place in their life, right? The fear that they live in, sort of this punishment that they have, that they're constantly scared of what is to come and if anybody will figure out what had happened that night. And I think that's already a very interesting look, because a lot of times we don't get that, right? Because the movie ends at the major event, ends at the clever, witty trick that they've pulled off, but we don't see what happens after that. And this is that even though that big major event is over and it's behind them, it's not really behind them, because they still have to live with those thoughts and that, whatever's going through their heads. Like in the movie, they show the nightmares, the people talking in the town, all of that they still have to live with. That's also shown really well in the movie, because they show a more human aspect of things that happen post that sort of event that happens in their lives. They show the gossip, they show the stigma around what has happened, and people gossiping in town, at the bus stand, at that chai stall or like sort of cafe that is there, where people are still gossiping, making up random stories of what must have happened that night, about the mom, about the girl, questioning her character and all of those things. So they really kind of explore that bit of it, the stigma, the gossip of people in town. Throughout the movie, they use the background music really well, the sounds really well, because a lot of times, if you notice, they use this background sound of police sirens, and that is used to kind of build this tension and fear, especially in the lead characters in this family that we are seeing, because that also complements the fear that they have within themselves. And they are also, I feel like, they're more tuned into all of these things happening because they already have that fear into them. Like, they show the scene where there's just a random police van just passing them, but they're still scared. So that's used really well, both as showing their characters after what has happened in their life, also in this movie as well, because they're trying to build a tension of what is to come in the future. So the first hour or so is a little slower than the rest of the movie, because it is trying to set up a lot of those things, and that's where they're also sort of trying to recap of what has happened before in the previous movie. And then as the investigation starts again and is reopened, that's where I feel like the story picks up more. It becomes more fast-paced, it becomes more exciting, but whatever they have set up in the first half really comes back again in the end. Like, everything that they set up is explained and has a purpose later, so it is worth the wait that is there in the beginning. Eventually it all builds up to the climax when the scriptwriter comes to them and tells them the story. And even before that, there are these small sort of twists that are placed before the full climax comes on, where the audience is like, oh my god, okay. And then when the climax comes, I think that is like the most thrilling part. Like, literally you feel like, oh shit, what's gonna happen now, and what has this guy done now, because you want to know, right? So I think the climax is really well built up. That's the point where you feel the goosebumps, you feel the high, and you feel the Drishyam franchise in this. I was wondering, when they sort of spin this whole story of how he goes about doing all of these things, and they briefly discuss this, the scriptwriter and Mohanlal's character George Clooney, they also talk about this, where do you think that this involves too much risk, and this is just a case where the guy will get very lucky if all things turn out to be in favor of him? And I was thinking about that, because the story does have a lot of, if it all goes well, then this will turn out to be the result. And I was thinking about it, and I kind of went back to one of the classes I had in the first year of my college, where we had a script writing class, and the teacher told us, do you why do we believe in movies? Why do we believe in the stories and the coincidences that happen in the movies? Because a lot of times stories are built on those coincidences, you know, one thing ticking off another thing, another thing, another thing. And he said the reason we do that, we believe in those stories, is because it happens in real lives. Coincidences happen in real life. You know, when sometimes a coincidence happens, you're like, oh my god, really? This is like unbelievable. And because they happen in real life, we are able to believe them in the movies. And that's something that was, I thought was interesting. And that whole thing is also kind of reinforced with the story and with his character, because in the end also the inspector kind of says something along the lines of, you know, he has made up his mind to protect his family, so we cannot win. So that kind of adds a little bit of a layer to it, makes it a little bit more, I don't want to say like magical, but makes it a little bit like he's invincible, kind of like he's still a normal person, but he's gonna do anything to protect his family. This is the first Mohanlal movie I have watched, and I can totally understand why people love him so much. I think he was actually really perfect for the character, because sometimes he's like this relaxed guy and sometimes he's the mastermind in the movie, right? And the thing is, you don't really know what he is when, like, you never know when he's relaxed or where he's plotting things, and he played that really well. He's able to be enduring, the protective father and family man, but also be this mastermind who's, you know, already a step ahead of everybody else and, you know, planning these things. I think the mom and the sisters also did a good job. The sister who's a little bit rebellious, then the elder sister who's, you know, terrified of all these things, she keeps getting nightmares. I think she did well. And the mother as well, I feel like she had a little bit of an understated part, but she kind of saw it coming. She has those scenes before everything comes out in the open where she can feel that, you know, something is gonna go wrong. She has this bad feeling in her, this premonition, or, you know, something's going to happen. Coming back to the guy who's sort of the catalyst in the story, the witness, Jose, or I think his name is, he is the one who saw George Kuti that night. I felt like, you know, they showed a little bit too much of his backstory, which was okay, but I felt like if it really came down to it, because the movie is a little bit longish, that his backstory kind of could have been cut down. Like, we could have gotten bits of it, like, you know, he killed his brother-in-law and he was in jail, and if we just got crucial parts of his story, I feel like that would have been enough. Like, we didn't need to go deep into those scenes where he goes to his wife and begs her, you know, please take me back, and all of those. I felt like those were okay that they were there, but they weren't really needed. The movie ends exactly like the previous one, Drishyam, where he has sort of successfully fooled the police and put them in a spot where they can't do anything. And even though most of those people know the reality, but they can't prove it and they can't do anything about it. And I feel like the life after Drishyam 2 will be exactly like the beginning of it. So yeah, that was my review of Drishyam 2. I know it was a little bit shorter than my usual reviews, but yeah, that's all I have. If you enjoyed watching this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel for more such reviews, reactions, and I shall see you next time. Bye!